So all the while, Trump is parading around, claiming that he has secured major trade deals around the world. And wouldn't you know it, an announcement just hours before his self-imposed August 1st deadline, he made a deal with Japan and the European Union. And of course, the media is busy spinning it as a major win for Trump. But here's the problem. It is just not true. It's all fake, and I will show you why. So first of all, the so-called EU deal isn't finalized yet. It's just a framework. There is nothing concrete. The same situation as we had with Japan. But isn't it bizarre? We don't hear that in most of the media coverage. So let's take a look on what the deals really are.
Thank you very much. So we have good news. We've reached a deal. It's a good deal for everybody, I believe. And I think you were saying this is probably the biggest deal ever reached in any capacity, trade or beyond trade.
It is.
It's a giant deal with lots of countries.
We have a trade deal between the two largest economies in the world. And it's a big deal, it's a huge deal. It will bring stability, it will bring predictability. That's very important for our businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. It's 15% tariffs across the board, all inclusive. It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
With tough negotiations. I knew it at the beginning, and it was indeed very tough, but we came to good conclusions for both sides. So again, congratulations and many thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And here's the details of the deal. The EU has agreed to purchase more U.S. military weapons and equipment, and both sides agreed to a 15% tariff across the board, including on automobiles.
So again, what the serious bankrupter Trump announced as a big deal is just a framework of a possible deal. But let's not be so picky about that, shall we? So, what do we know about the biggest deal ever? The European Union accepted firm tariffs of 15%, and tariffs on other items are actually a little bit higher than that. Things like steel, which is vital to American production. But nevertheless, we go with 15% tariffs. Let's take a look at the nitty-gritty, shall we? Apparently, there is a $600 billion investment by the European Union, similar to the $515 billion with the Japanese deal. But do you know that of the $550 billion investment into the US economy, only 2% is a real investment? That is around $12.6 billion. Not quite 550 billion now, is it? The rest is simply a loan to the US and must be paid back. But back to the EU deal. So, we have a possible $600 billion investment by the European Union. However, officials said right after the obligatory handshake, the EU does not guarantee any of the money since it is all private industry investment. And in Europe, the government cannot dictate industry what to do and how to invest, two EU officials said. But it is fair to say that there will be some money coming from the EU towards the US. But that is money for stuff the EU would buy anyways from the US. But to be clear, there is absolutely no additional investment from the government of the EU towards the US. None whatsoever. However, betting on the private sector to deliver that amount of money with no enforcement mechanism is basically a brilliant PR stunt by Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission. And the idiot Trump and the right-wing media fell for it, hook and sinker. Brilliant. Okay, the second part of this big deal are the 15% tariffs on the EU. This deal was struck on Sunday, so starting Friday, August 1st, there will be 15% tariffs on goods exported from the EU towards the US. Congratulations, America! Starting Friday, August 1st, you will be paying at least 13.5% more for almost all the good stuff that comes from the EU than you did before. And why? Because before genius Trump struck the big beautiful deal with the EU, tariffs for EU exports towards the US was set to less than 1.5%, and now it is 15%. Wouldn't you agree that 15 is more than 1.5%? Trump never reduces your cost of living. Instead, among other disasters, he increases the EU tariffs more than tenfold. Trump deals aren't deals, they are disasters for America and its citizens. Trump tariffs will raise the cost of imported goods. And guess who pays for that? No one else pays for tariffs than you, the American consumer. You are not saving money. You're losing money. Tariffs don't bring money into a country. Tariffs only shifts wealth around within the country, from the poor and the middle class to the super rich. Oh yeah, that's right, someone wins. But it's not you. But don't take my word for it.
So, before this deal with the EU, we have to be clear that every trade war that we are engaging in, Donald Trump brought that one up himself, except for China. China is the one that you really have an issue with, but we essentially had favored nations with the EU paying about 1% import. So 15% is a lot more than 1%. And I rarely say that I wish somebody else would take my seat, at least for this segment, but I wish Charlie Gasparino was sitting here right now to explain to Jesse again how tariffs work, because it is a tax on the American consumer. The American consumer knows that. That's why they don't rate Trump particularly highly on how to handle inflation, cost of living, tariffs, and trade wars. And you also see headlines like Walmart raising prices up to 51%. They're doing that because they're not going to eat the tariff. They're going to pass it on to you. Volkswagen, profits down 1.5 billion. GM, profits down 1 billion. Why is that? Because of these trade wars that Donald Trump created. Now there is this 20 billion in revenue that's coming in, right? I've seen the headlines. I've seen the panicans backing off. But if it weren't going to be a clear line to raising your individual prices, why is Donald Trump, and Josh Hawley now wants to get in on it, talking about rebate checks for the American public? They want another opportunity for Donald Trump to smack his signature, which has been all over the place as we've seen recently,
Not
on
with an
another
auto pen.
rebate, not with an auto pen, on rebate checks so that the American public won't hate him for the fact that he is raising their cost of living. And that is what is going on here.
All right.
Now, Trump also claims Brussels will invest 750 billion over 3 years in energy. Just another investment coming, right? Okay. All the EU is saying that they will buy oil and gas from the US. And that is that oil and gas they used to buy from Russia. There is no additional costs to the EU, just the cost you had before buying from Russia. So, and how long do you think the EU will buy the stuff from the US? Well, not longer than 3 years. However, only as long as it takes Canada to get its infrastructure ready to export its energy. And from that moment on, Canada will export the energy to the EU and Asia. Just wait and see. Now you might say, but Trump says all those deals will bring in hundreds of billions in investment and create jobs. Well, to that I would say, show me one example, just one, where something Trump promised actually resulted in something positive for everyday American. I'm waiting. Well, you can't, because it hasn't happened. Never. Ever. But one thing happened for sure. Ursula von der Leyen has played sexual abuser Trump like a fiddle. Are you tired of winning yet? Okay, Canada. Let's talk about Canada. To make one thing clear, Canada will not be bullied. We will not be bullied, especially not from an economically illiterate convicted felon. Yes, correct, Canada does not have a tariff deal with the US yet. And here's why.
And what do you say to industry who are obviously anxious about this upcoming deadline?
Yeah, let me start with the second part of your question, which is industry, businesses, Canadians. They are anxious and they are concerned. They don't deserve the uncertainty that's been thrust upon them. They don't like it. They like resolution, but they'd also like they want the right kind of resolution. They want a deal that makes sense for Canada, that makes sense for Canadian business, for Canadian workers. The negotiations are at an intense phase. It's a complex negotiation. You see with the various trade deals that have been agreed by other jurisdictions, European Union yesterday, Japan before, Indonesia, etc., the United Kingdom, that there are many aspects to these negotiations. We're engaged in them. But the assurance for Canadian business, for Canadians, is we will only sign a deal that's the right deal, that's a good deal for Canada. We're representing Canada. We're standing up for Canada. The United States and Canada can do many good things together. We have done that in the past. We can do more in the future, but on fair terms for our country.
Can you also ask us what the price of the...
Prime Minister Mark Carney was asked where he is in the process of a trade deal with Trump. And did you notice what Prime Minister Carney said there? He indicated that there is a possible zone of deals they are focusing on, but added that he is not going to enter into stupid deals. So if Trump is in that zone and it is in the interest of Canada, then and only then would Mark Carney be open to it. But he is not going to do things that are against Canada's interests. That's it. And why? Because Mark Carney doesn't need to. And here's what Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who used to be a great fan of Donald Trump, says now about Trump and America.
Yes, on the economy, we've got to kind of get something short-term worked out with the Trump administration, but this really is a wake-up call for this country to truly diversify its trade export markets.
And there is yet another major development in strengthening ties between Canada and other nations, especially Mexico.
With Canada, it has been very important for us. Sino también en cultura, en amistad. Muchos mexicanos también viven aquí en Canadá. In trade, culture, and friendship. La invitación y quiero hacerle un regalo. Porque vamos a tener el próximo año una pelota. Mundial compartido. Este está hecho por indígenas wixárika. Entonces es un regalo.
This is a gift for you. This is wonderful, and this is an area where Mexico, Canada, and our third co-host,
yes, right.
the other president, we are totally aligned in our excitement, enthusiasm for the beautiful game and co-hosting in a sign of friendship. So thank you very much. This is wonderful. I'm going to put it right here.
Muchísimas gracias. Esto es maravilloso y esta es un área en la que México, Canadá.
We highly value the relationship with Canada. It has been very...
We're talking about trade deals worth potentially hundreds of billions of dollars and deliberately bypassing the United States. In fact, the old USMCA may just soon become the new MCA between Mexico and Canada if things continue the way they are right now. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has held multiple productive and promising meetings with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Both discussed the need to move around the US, either official or informally, because they know America is no longer a trustworthy trading partner. Let's watch what David Abbey had to say.
Announcing a second call for power, an additional 5,000 gigawatts of clean energy that we're calling for to be produced here in British Columbia, enough to power 500,000 homes, as well as major industrial projects across the province. It is an economic driver in every corner of British Columbia for communities right across this beautiful province of ours. And it's a reflection of two things. One is our commitment to grow our economy, to ensure that we're standing strong as British Columbians, we're relying on our advantages, and we're supporting growth in the industries in which we're strong. And the second is that we believe that climate change is real, that we understand that we have a role to play here in British Columbia in driving down emissions, and clean electricity is the way that we're going to do it. And we're going to address climate change at the same time as we're growing our economy. And I couldn't help but notice the President of the United States, Donald Trump, saying that he doesn't like those windmills that produce electricity. They interfere with the views from his golf courses. Let me tell you, to all American clean energy producers, come relocate to British Columbia. We are the clean energy capital of the world. We're going to do it. We're creating energy here. We're supportive of clean energy, and we will continue to be so. You can join the amazing more than 700 medical professionals that have applied to join our health service from the United States, and we welcome you, and you are welcome.
Trump has a ridiculous vendetta against wind turbines and focuses on dirty energy, energy that's ruining the world's climate as it has for over 100 years. All the while, Canada, under the leadership of our amazing province, British Columbia, focuses on clean energy, energy that does not destroy our environment, but building thousands of new high-paying jobs. After all, the Stone Age has not stopped because the world ran out of stones, but we found better alternatives. And on top of that, British Columbia has opened its doors to more than 700 American healthcare professionals fleeing Trump's America and want to work here in beautiful BC. Good things ahead. For more real news, facts and viewpoints to counterbalance the demagogic of the right-wing media, please like and subscribe. It goes a long way to help the channel. Till next time, I'm Wilfred Lamkuler with Europe Curious.